Hello and welcome to episode 25 of the Nourish and Strengthen podcast. I'm super excited to have you here, and I can't believe we've had 25 episodes. Today we're going to be talking about one of my most favorite times of the year, and that is right now. It's the holiday time. So I have affectionately dubbed the holiday episode. Can you guys believe that we're pretty much in the thick of the holiday season? Have you guys started your Christmas shopping? I haven't really. I kind of don't know how to do Christmas with college age kids, I'm going to admit. They're not really like creating lists for me anymore. It's just kind of a different stage of life. And I think I'm going to have to surprise them a little bit more, which is super fun, but it's also kind of a little bit harder. You know what I'm saying? Little backstory. We have one time when my kids were little, it was like, I think it was like July. It was the middle of the summer. And I told my husband, I was like, time goes by so fast. We're going to be picking out pumpkins before you know it. And that has kind of become our little like slogan for how fast time flies. We're going to be picking out pumpkins before you know it. But we just picked out the pumpkins. So now we're going to be decorating the Christmas tree before you know it. And so today I want to get on top of that and talk about all things staying healthy, managing our weight and our body composition, nutrition, workout, stress, all that stuff that has to do with the holiday times. I'm going to give you tactical nutrition strategies, workout strategies, and stress management that will help you not only survive the holiday season, but really thrive. This is my favorite time of year. Well, I love summer too. I don't know. It's a toss-up. I love this time of year. And it makes me sad when so many people are like, oh, I hate the holidays. I mean, if you hate them because you get stressed out about money, I understand that. But hopefully it should be a fun time that you look forward to. So speaking of holiday season, guys, have you seen my Black Friday coaching special where you can get free coaching, free months of coaching? If you want to lose 8 to 10 pounds before the new year and you're feeling stuck due to sluggish hormones or your metabolism, or maybe you're struggling with a lack of consistency, I want you to click on the show notes where you can learn how to get months of our elite level coaching for free. Okay, so check it out. All right, guys, let's jump on this. So like I said before, I really want to teach you how to love this time of year and love the foods you'll get to eat. And, even the hustle and bustle of the busy lifestyle. I want you to love it and not feel stressed and not feel nervous, especially not stressed over food, calories, workouts, things like that. So that's what I'm here to help you with today. Okay. It can be stressful, right? You might be thinking, well, I love this treat and that treat, and how am I possibly not going to gain weight? There's a statistic. I don't remember what it is, and I forgot to look it up, but it's the average American, I don't know what percentage, that's what I'm not sure, but a certain percent of Americans, the average American, we will say, gains about 8 pounds in November and December. And I don't want that to be you, okay? Because we know how that feels. When your jeans are a little bit too tight and you can't quite button them, or when you go to get on the floor to play with your kids or your grandkids and it's just uncomfortable and your clothes don't fit good and your stomach is protruding out. We don't want that. Okay. It doesn't feel good. It's no fun. So we're going to talk about that. All right. So first up, we're going to talk about your workouts. Okay. And like I said, I'm going to try and give you tangible tips and tricks you can take and use right away. So life is busy, right? We have kids' performances, like so many. Do you think it's a little excessive? I think it can sometimes get a little excessive at the kids' schools, right? But we have kids' performances, we have work parties, we have shopping trips, we have Christmas parties, we have family things, we've got all the things, right? And we need to be prepared and adjust our expectations. Okay. So for your workouts, if you find yourself super, super busy, I want you to remember, here's the biggest tip. Something is better than nothing. Okay, so I've got 4 tips for you on kind of having that attitude of something is better than nothing and how to fit in your workouts when you don't have a lot of time. Okay, number 1, you can do this by shortening the rest period. Okay, shorten the rest period. If you normally rest for 60 to 90 seconds or even 2 minutes, try shortening the rest period to make the workout more intense. Okay, so when you're short on time, you want to increase the intensity. Okay, so you can increase the intensity by shortening your rest period, or you can do it by supersetting two exercises together. So let's say you have I don't know, a squat and a row. Let's just say you're doing a full body workout. You have a squat and a row. So instead of doing 3 sets of squats and then moving on to 3 sets of rows, you're gonna do a set of squats, a set of rows, rest, a set of squat, a set of rows, rest, a set of squats, a set of rows, rest. Okay, that's supersetting. And that can really help cut your time and your workout by about 25%. Okay, you're still gonna rest a little bit, right? But it's not gonna be as long as that full rest after every set. Okay, so like I said, when you're short on time, increase the intensity. Another way to increase the intensity and get a shorter workout in is to focus more on compound moves, okay? So these are moves where you're moving from 2 joints, all right? So let's talk about our shoulders, for example. A compound move would be an overhead press. You're moving at the shoulder joint and the elbow joint, okay? Contrast that with a lateral raise that is also a shoulder movement. You're only moving from the shoulder joint. Do you see what I'm saying? So the more compound moves that you can use, one, the more calories you're going to burn, but we're not all about calories in our lifting workouts, but that is a point. It's also going to boost metabolism a little bit more, okay? You're going to have more about that metabolic boost after your workout when you do these compound moves. So another comparison might be a squat where you're moving at the knee joint and the hips compared to a leg extension. Okay, do you see what I'm saying? So combine more of those compound movements. You don't need quite as many and it'll be a faster workout, all right? Another idea when it comes to cardio is to do short HIIT sessions instead of longer cardio. So if you are used to going to maybe a 45 to an hour long spin class, try not doing that. Actually, that's actually a good weight loss tip as well. Try not doing those long cardio classes. Those are not ideal for weight loss, especially if you're over 40. If you're not sure why, shoot me a DM on social media. But doing those short HIIT workouts, and it can even be as short, you guys, as 5 HIIT intervals. So head on the treadmill, the spin bike, something like that, and you're just gonna do 5 hard intervals of about 30 to anywhere from 20 to 60 seconds. The shorter it is, the harder you need to go. If you feel like you're not fit enough to go quite as hard in a full-on sprint, you want to go a little bit longer, maybe that 45 to 60 seconds, followed by about a minute to a minute and a half of rest to be fully recovered before you do your next HIIT interval, okay? And all you need, guys, is like 5 to 8 of them. It's really, really short, and you're going to get some great metabolic benefits as well as fat loss benefits too, if that is your goal. 4th tip here for your workouts in this time of year is lots and lots of walking, okay? NEAT, it stands for non-exercise activity thermogenesis. That's a big part of your metabolism and your overall daily calorie burn. Lots of walking makes a huge difference. If you find that you're pretty sedentary at work, try setting an alarm on your phone or your watch every 2 hours or so and go for a 10-minute walk. It can be around your building, it can be around your house, it could be wherever you want. Maybe it's a good time to invest in a walking pad to get more steps in. But especially if you can't get a traditional workout in, just focus on lots and lots of walks and getting your steps as high as you can, and that will really, really help. Okay, we're gonna move on to nutrition. Okay, I've got quite a few tips. I think I counted up 6. Hope I didn't count wrong. 6 tips and tricks for your nutrition during the holidays, but overarching idea here, I want you to remember, is that no food is off limits. This is a very important mindset trick here, okay? Because what do we do when we tell ourselves we cannot have something? What do you think about if I say, don't think about a yellow bus? What did you just think about? You thought about the yellow bus because I told you not to, right? And I talked about it. So if you tell yourself, I can't have chocolate cake, I can't have that apple pie, I can't have this, I can't have that, what are you gonna do? That's all you're gonna want, right? Is the thing that you think you can't have. All right. So a big thing here, one of my overarching ideas is how to weave in those foods that you love in moderation. Okay. All right. Number 1, how to work in a little small treat in moderation, right? Sometimes, you guys, there's magic in 100-calorie portion size, okay? Because sometimes if you have a 100-calorie treat, it's so easy to fit into your daily macros. All you really need to do is shave off some grams of protein, carbs, and a few fats if you track all 3 macros from other meals, and it's so easy to fit in that favorite treat. And 100-calorie amount is a solid serving size, right? It might be half a brownie or a third of a brownie, or maybe it is like a half a cup of ice cream or a third of a cup of ice cream. There's a lot of, like, you can get significant amount of bites from that 100-calorie treat is what I'm trying to say. And it can feel like you are getting as much satisfaction as you would if you had the whole serving, but for fewer calories. Okay, something I talk about often, you've probably heard me talk about this, is the 4-bite rule. Okay, the first bite tastes absolutely incredible. You savor it, you love it. Second bite is almost just as good. By the third bite, you're like, this is still really good, but it's kind of losing some of those magical qualities that the first and second bite had. And by the fourth bite, most of the time, you can say, that was delicious and I'm done. I am satisfied. I'm good to move on. Okay. And that's an incredible way to stay mindful with how the food is tasting and staying aware and just being, mindful in that moment of what you truly want and being satisfied and paying attention to that satisfaction. Okay. Tip number 2 is if you have some food treats, which we'll talk about, like gifts, food gifts that are given to you, that kind of thing in a little bit, but having it post-workout is a great idea. Our bodies are most insulin sensitive after a workout, and your body's actually going to use up those carbs quickly to kickstart your recovery and refill those glycogen stores that you depleted during your lifting workout, okay? And your body's not going to have near the blood sugar response it would at other times of the day. So if you typically have, I don't know, a bagel and a protein shake, or maybe some cream of rice or some oatmeal and some eggs or something, keep the protein. Okay, so still have a protein shake or some eggs or something post-workout, but instead of that carb source, have your Christmas cookie or whatever it is that you're wanting after that post-workout meal. And you can love it and you can enjoy it. And I almost said have it guilt-free, but I want you to always have these things guilt-free. Guilt is never part of the equation here, okay? But just know that if you want to have something, have it post-workout. Your body's going to be starved for that glucose, those carbs, and will use it up super quickly, okay? Number 3 tip and trick here for your nutrition. I kind of talked about this in the beginning, but it's really losing that restrictive mindset, you guys. That restrictive mindset will doom you, okay? If you are constantly thinking about, woe is me, I'm trying to reach these goals, or I'm trying to even just maintain through the holidays so I can't have XYZ, that's all you're going to want. And you're going to be sad, and you're going to put yourself in this disempowered place, okay? If you tell yourself you can't have the brownie, you're going to look at it, you're going to dream about it. And if you're like the old me, you're going to thinly slice off edges of the brownie until it's basically gone. Do you guys do that? I'm always like, okay, nobody will notice that little slice. Okay, now nobody will notice this little slice. And pretty soon your brownie is like that big. And you're like, oh, maybe I should have just eaten the brownie, right? Maybe I should have just done it. So then you would have had that satisfaction that comes from the brownie. Anyways, here's a couple of thoughts on building in the treats, okay? You don't need to eat the whole thing. You don't. Kind of go back to that 4-bite rule I talked about in a few minutes ago. When you allow yourself the treat and you build it in, you might find that you're satisfied with less, okay? It's so much easier, like I said, to build in that small treat too and get on with your day than feel like you had too much and you made a mistake and you have all this guilt and then you end up eating more of it anyway when you didn't even really want to, okay? Be proactive, stay in your power, make the decisions, and it'll be so much better, I promise, okay? And so remember, also, this is not the last day on earth you're ever going to see a cookie or a brownie or ice cream, okay? Remind yourself that it's not off limits. So oftentimes when we tell ourselves it's off limits, that's when we go into, like I talked about this in last week's episode, I'm not going to have this tomorrow. I have to get it out of the house. If it's not off limits, you can have another bite tomorrow. You can. I have bites of ice cream almost every single night, you guys, and I don't feel the need to binge on it because I know I have a couple bites of it every single night and it's fine. Okay, contrast that with the me 10 years ago who thought I was never going to have ice cream again until I reached my goals. So of course, I felt like I had to eat the whole carton and get completely sick of it, right? But if I can have some every day, you just don't have those urges, okay? And also, when you realize that you can build in these treats and you can stop at just one, you're going to feel so good about yourself. You guys, it's the most empowering feeling. It's so freeing to realize that you can keep these treats in the house. You can bake things with your kids and you can control yourself. When you realize that, you'll feel like you can do anything because you realize that you can control your cravings and that nothing is off limits. It's an incredible feeling, and I want you guys all to feel this for yourselves, okay? Okay, Tip number 3, that was a whole bunch of tips wrapped up into number 2, all right? So with your nutrition, deal with or do something with your food gifts quickly. Don't let them just sit on the counter, all right? If you just let the plates sit out on the counter, you're gonna be nibbling in them, okay? So I want you to make a decision of what to do with them. Here are some ideas, okay? If you have people over to your house, then send leftovers home with them. They'll love it. I'm sure they'll love it. And then you don't need all the stuff left over at your house. You can get right back on your healthy eating plan the next day, and you can keep some for yourself if you do want some bites for a couple of days, but you don't have to keep all of it, okay? Another idea is when someone brings you treats, you know how it is in December, right? Your doorbell's ringing, there's treats, and you're like, oh my gosh, I'm out of my macros for the day, but I really want to have what's coming. Again, have a small amount of it. If you're a very popular family, and you get treats often, you could even allocate 100 calories a night for that treat in anticipation of someone bringing something over. And if they don't, you have a little fun calories left in your day that you could have whatever you want with, okay? Another idea, when someone brings you treats, save one for yourself, okay? Work it into your macros the next day. Let your family have one if they want it, and then put it in the freezer. Most, if not all, goodies freeze wonderfully. And then you can pull them out of the freezer when you want them in the future. And it's a fun little treat, okay? Just wrap them up really tight, nicely in foil or plastic wrap or whatever, stick them in the freezer, and you might end up having treats on hand for family dinners for months to come, depending on how popular you are and how many gifts you get. All right, tip number 4 with nutrition is meal prepping. Meal prepping, you guys. You're gonna have plenty of time when you're at parties, at events, when you do have to estimate your macros or eyeball your portion sizes. So when you do have complete control over your food, really try your best to keep it in check, okay? You're gonna see the best results if when you're home, you eat simply and plainly. That doesn't mean it has to be gross or boring. It just means tracking and making sure you know what you're eating so that when you are at these events away from your house eating out, you do have more flexibility because you're being a little bit more strict than maybe than normal when you're at home. Okay, so some tips here. Meal prep 2 kinds of meat for the week and 1 grain, whether that's rice or potatoes, some sort of a starchy or carb. Have a carb source you have on hand and a couple fat sources. Okay, so when you have these simple items, as well as always some staple fruits and veggies, you can make plenty of different combos to keep things interesting, delicious, easy to track, and just to keep yourself, on track when you have control. When you can control it because you know there'll be plenty of times when you can't, okay? Some examples. Maybe you cook up some chicken in a crock pot and beef and rice. Okay, 3 things: chicken, beef, rice. Maybe you buy tortillas, avocado, apples and bananas, okay, and an assortment of veggies. And you have some protein powder on hand, maybe some cheese and peanut butter, okay? With these foods, you can make, you ready? Here's some things I thought of. You can make a peanut butter banana protein shake, apples or bananas with peanut butter as a snack, chicken avocado wraps, beef and rice over a salad, rice and chicken in a wrap, chicken quesadillas, okay? You get the idea. So many things you can make for just a few ingredients to keep on hand and have prepped, okay? All right, tip number 6 with your nutrition is calorie cycling, okay? Now, you guys, maintaining your fitness level and managing your weight through the holidays is all about balance, okay? There's gonna be times when you're overindulging. You know that. We want to allow for that, okay? So calorie cycling could be a place where you kind of mitigate and moderate those overindulgences, okay? But I have some warnings and some caveats here. If you are working with a coach on my team and you want to try this, talk to her about it. We'll be totally game and we can help set you up with a solid program, okay? One thing I don't recommend if you have something bigger going on that night, I don't recommend you completely skimping on calories all day leading up to an evening party or event, because then you're going to just show up ravenous and you're more likely to overeat everything in sight, okay? So what I do recommend on those days when you have a bigger meal later in the day, you can totally adjust calories and carbs downward earlier in the day, just shaving off little bits from each meal to open up a few hundred calories for that evening meal. Okay, a few hundred calories in addition to your normal dinner allotment, all right? That's gonna make it so you're still fueling yourself, you're still eating well throughout the day, you're not totally starving yourself and going in fasted and just starving for food, okay? Another trick is to have a serving of protein right before you go to your event. Okay, our bodies are so much less likely to store extra protein like they do with carbs and fat. So going over your protein allotment on a day when you have an event or something like that isn't that really that big of a deal. Okay, you'll be totally fine. What this is going to do, it's going to take the edge off any hunger you're feeling so you don't get there super hungry. Okay, then you can get to the party, get busy helping in the kitchen or chatting with people instead of heading straight for the food because you are so hungry and you've been waiting all day for this food. Okay, we want to really avoid that. So when you have a lot of these events and you want to try calorie cycling, what you're going to do is, let's say on the weekend, maybe Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, you have stuff going on. You can easily add a couple hundred calories to each of those days and subtract those from the rest of the week. Okay, what I do not recommend is bringing the rest of the week down to rock bottom so that you can have really high calorie targets for the weekend. That is just setting you up for kind of more of that binge restrict cycle that I talked about on the episode last week. So we want to have some moderate cycling, but nothing too extreme. Okay, does that make sense? Like I said, if you're working with a coach, your coach can totally set this up for you. Super, super simple. Let's talk about hydration. Okay, hydration is so important. It always is important, but when you know you're going to be having more times where you're eating off plan, it's going to be even more important, okay? So let's talk about the word carbohydrate, all right? For every gram of carbs you eat, your body is going to hold about 3 grams of water. So it just makes sense that when you have a higher carb meal or more treats, for example, your body's going to hold some water, your weight's going to go up. This is not a problem, this is normal. But something you can do to flush that through you quicker is to drink more water, okay? So water is our body's best natural diuretic. Drinking more of it is going to push more of it through you, okay? So some tips and tricks here. You can drink a couple cups of water before you go into an event or into a party. You can hold water as you're walking around talking to people at your holiday events. It's going to help you not be reaching for munching on food as often if you're holding your drink. Also, you can take your normal water intake and 1.5 times it. So if you're doing about your half your body weight in ounces of water a day, you can take that amount, your typical amount, and 1.5 times that. It's going to be a higher water amount. You can do that on either the day of or the day after if you have a more indulgent event or meal or something, and that's going to help push things through you, okay? If you do find that you are feeling achy, have a headache, something like that, just aren't feeling great when you increase your water, it's because your electrolytes are out of balance, okay? So either take some real salt, sea salt, salt your food, or take a good electrolyte powder, okay? I love the one from Transform is my favorite, but any electrolyte powder that you have on hand works just as well, okay? All right. Stress management. We've talked about workouts, nutrition. Let's talk about stress, you guys. This is huge. So many people feel like the holidays are such a stressful time, and hopefully these 3 tips, ideas will help you, okay? Number 1, we're going to talk about sleep, okay? It is crucial that you get enough sleep for managing your emotions, all right? Of course, for managing your weight and your health as well, but we're going to be talking about stress, managing your emotions, okay? This can be a very stressful time of year or a very happy time of the year. And believe it or not, guys, you get to choose that for yourself. You can choose and you can create the experience that you want by saying, this is going to be amazing, or by saying, oh my gosh, this is so stressful. I don't have enough money. There's too many food treats and all my family wants to be with me. And there's only one of me to go around. Okay. You can choose what you want to focus on, all right? And the more sleep you get, the easier time you'll have choosing happy. If you are underslept, if you are not getting enough sleep, it's going to be much easier to choose, this sucks, I don't feel great, I'm so stressed, this is such a long day, right? But if you're getting 7 to 9 hours of sleep, it's so much easier to choose happy, okay? So here's what I want you to do. I want you to work backwards. If you have to get up at 6:30, I want you to go backwards and say, okay, I'm going to be in bed at 10:30, but I want you to get in bed a little bit before that to allow yourself time to unwind. Maybe you read a book, maybe you do some meditation or some deep breathing, but get in bed before you want to be asleep for about a half an hour to kind of unwind. All right, and don't lay there and use your phone. I would recommend reading instead. Okay, it's my favorite time to read. Tip number 2 for stress management is mindfulness and breathing. 5 minutes of meditation and box breathing, you guys, will do wonders if you find yourself feeling stressed. Okay. You can also try doing daily restorative yoga, or not daily, sorry. You can start doing restorative yoga once a week, is what I meant to say. Meditation and box breathing daily, yoga once a week. And I don't mean the power hard yoga, I mean restorative yin. Is it yin or yang? I can't actually remember. It's the restorative kind, the kind where you're holding stretches, deep breathing, not as much of the faster flows. Okay. That can be really, really helpful in managing your stress. And then the last one is journaling. If you're feeling overwhelmed, I want you to pull out a journal, a notepad, and get curious, guys. Write down the facts and circumstances of your life that are making you feel stressed and overwhelmed. Okay. Remember, the circumstances can be proven in a court of law. All right. What does that mean? That might mean a circumstance is it is raining outside and I was supposed to go outside for a walk. Okay. So the circumstance is it is raining outside and you were planning to go out for a walk. That's a circumstance. All right. The feeling and the thought about that might be, oh my gosh, what am I going to do now? Because now I'm never going to get my steps for the day. And now I have to be inside all the time and blah, 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 all these stories that we create in our head. That's a very minor thing to be stressed about, but that was just the first thing that came to my mind. So really figuring out what are the circumstances, what are the facts, and why am I feeling this way? And getting curious about that. Are there other thoughts that you can choose to help you feel a different way? Okay. Maybe you can say, you know what? It's raining outside. So I'm actually going to do some indoor yoga instead. And how awesome is that? Because I haven't done that. I have a hard time prioritizing that. So this is going to be an easy way to help myself do that for myself. I just said myself a whole bunch of times. So does that make sense? Journaling about those things. The last thing here, you guys, is a plan. You have to plan. So we've covered most of the things I want to talk about, but let's just sum it all up right here. I'm a huge planner, and here are all the ways that you can possibly and you should plan your food and workouts around your holidays and events. Okay. We're going to start with the longer term, a week at a time, and work down to the shorter term. Okay. So weekly plan. If you have just one event on a week, have that be your untracked meal. Okay. I firmly believe that everyone should have at least one meal, not at least, probably one meal in their week that they don't track, don't think too hard about, just really enjoy what they want to have in moderate portions and don't stress too much about it. Okay. You can have more than that if you're not trying for weight loss, but if you are trying to lose weight, usually one meal a week that is untracked is perfect. So if you have one event, make that your weekly untracked meal. Okay. Get a great workout in on those days. Maybe get some extra steps in and you should be great. Okay. If you have more than one event, you might need to pick and choose where you're going to indulge and really eat more of the food. Okay. So maybe do a little research. Maybe one of those parties is going to have a ton of food that you love. Okay. Maybe you make that your untracked meal. And maybe the other one will also have some foods that you truly love, but not quite as much. So maybe you try to build those foods into your macros for the day. All right. There might be some parties too where you go to and you're like, you know what? I don't even care about that food that they're having there. I'm just going to have some water or some diet soda and stay on my plan. That's totally fine as well. This is all about checks and balances, moderation, balancing out those indulgences when they're worth it and avoiding them when they are not worth it. Okay. If you have multiple events in a week and you want to have moderation at all of them, maybe consider calorie cycling. Like I mentioned, adding a couple hundred calories to those days and dropping a little bit from the rest of your week. All right. So it's really just each week, Sunday night or whenever, look at your week ahead and plan out how you want to approach your food situation for those days. All right. Now, coming down to a day by day basis, especially on the days you're eating more, I would highly recommend getting your workout in. Okay. Even if you're busy, like I mentioned, something is better than nothing. Remember what we talked about before, keeping that intensity higher when your time allotment is shorter. Okay. And then 2, you can shave off carbs and fats throughout the day, but do not go to your party starving. Okay. Plan around it and have that, just make sure you're fueling your body throughout the day and don't go in just completely ravenous. I promise it will backfire on you. Okay. Now, this last idea here is tracking. Tracking your body metrics throughout the holidays. If it is important to you to maintain your weight or even lose weight through the holidays, it's going to be really important to take your measurements and step on the scale at least once a week. Okay. We don't want you to step on the scale too often and get discouraged, but just know that I have seen it. People will say, I'm going by how my pants fit. It can be common that you gain 5 to 7 pounds before your pants really feel that much different. And so taking your measurements, photos, weight once a week are going to help you stay on track and just know what's going on and keep up that awareness so that you know, okay, things are starting to tick upwards. Maybe I need to kind of dial things in a little bit, or no, I'm doing great. The approach I've been using is perfect. Okay. A couple tips here. Time your weekly check-in with yourself away from any untracked meals or overindulgences, okay, or higher indulgences. So obviously your weight measurements are going to be up higher the day after an untracked meal. That's totally normal. So try to have, maybe you check in with your coach or with yourself the morning of that untracked meal so that it's like a week or so away from your previous one. That would be a great idea, okay? And the last idea here is just to manage your expectations. Okay, this is my number one tip. Remember, we want to enjoy and love the holiday season, not just survive or be miserable from deprivation. Okay, so if your goal is fat loss right now, and you're on a roll, feeling great, you don't need to change it. But if you feel like you're kind of struggling, feeling a little bit burnt out, I would encourage you to change your goal to maintenance just for the next 6 weeks or so. You don't necessarily need to adjust your plan. You can still work towards fat loss, but if you expect maintenance, because you're going to be off a little bit here and there, you're much more likely to be happy with your efforts and feel good about your holiday experience as opposed to feeling frustrated if you're expecting maintenance. You may even lose a few pounds, and that's just like icing on the cake, right? I will say too, if you're working with one of the coaches on my team, we are very skilled at teaching you how to continue to enjoy the foods you love in moderation, not spend hours in your workouts, and see results. And so whatever you are struggling with, communicate that with your coach, and we can absolutely work those things into your program. All right, guys. So hopefully that helps you. Hopefully that gives you some tangible tips and tricks and advice on how to prioritize your workouts. Make sure you are feeling good. Make sure you are living a stress-free as possible holiday season. If you guys like this episode, I'd love it if you shared it with a friend, and let me know on social what you thought of it. And I will talk to you guys next week. Bye-bye.